Hello.
I have been meaning to make this video for months now. I'm always getting questions and comments about our tiny greenhouse. We've had it for 3 years now. We started it in the fall of 2019, and over the next 3 years, we worked on it and built the gardens around it, and we are just thrilled at what it looks like today. Almost 4 years ago, in the spring of 2018, we were just starting the main garden. We had two large raised beds on that old concrete foundation that have since moved, and the whole yard was grass and just a few scraggly shrubs where the greenhouse and lower gardens are now. So when I started removing the grass where the greenhouse was going to be built, I quickly discovered that it was basically just hard-packed gravel with a really thin layer of soil on top for the grass. The gravel was about 4 inches in depth, so we did have to get down farther than that for those 4 blocks that supported each corner. Most of the first day was spent digging and setting those blocks. We took a few hours to measure and reset them and make sure that they were really level and square, because we knew that that would make the actual build so much quicker and easier. And that proved to be true. The second day we started building and had all 4 walls up before dark. I was lucky enough to get these windows from my neighbors for free because they had new ones installed in their home and they were just going to get rid of them. So we did get the windows for free, but between lumber, the plastic roofing, blocks, sealant stuff, screws, other hardware and things like that, I spent about $500 total on this build. Now, my dad is extremely handy, luckily, and did most of the actual building, while my neighbors who came over to help and my husband and I, we pretty much just lifted windows into place, grabbed supplies when we needed them, and generally kept everything organized. So fast forward about a week and I was doing the rest basically by myself, with my husband able to help for a few hours when he could, but having the basic structure already in place did help a lot. Those angled pieces were a bit more difficult, and I had to notch them at the front so they would partially sit on the top, but also screw them in from the side to help carry the weight of the snow that we can get here on the East Coast. At this point, I should say that I have absolutely zero construction experience. So I had to do a lot of troubleshooting and minor problem solving as I went, just sort of taking the time to figure things out. But in the 3 years since I built it, it's gone through hurricanes, blizzards, and 3-foot dumps of snow, and it has not budged an inch, and I'm incredibly proud of that. After those angled roof pieces went in, the roof itself came together pretty quick. We put some horizontal bracing in between. I also built the door from scratch, made inserts wrapped in plastic to keep it lightweight. That's just vapor barrier, by the way. And I also made plastic wrapped inserts for the 2 triangular shaped openings on the 2 sides below the roof. I'm extremely proud of that door, by the way. It was probably the trickiest thing I had to do, and 3 years later, it still works. I did have to rush to get the roof and door done before the first big snowfall. I think I was finishing the roof the day before this happened, which is why I didn't get a picture of putting the plastic up. Typical East Coast weather, though, it started to melt and then gave me this other gorgeous picture. But after the snow completely melted, I was able to use some of the scrap wood, make a couple of quick shelves along the back wall, and each of these little shelves will hold 3 10-by-20 trays. I know this is a terrible quality photo, but later on in December I couldn't resist putting some Christmas lights inside. And now it's spring of 2020 and we all know what happened there. The surrounding yard is still a blank slate, so you'll remember that this whole area was hard-packed gravel, but I committed to excavating around the greenhouse a bit because I wanted to surround it with perennial herbs. That was the plan. And I wanted a stone walkway to lead from the greenhouse door down through the arbor that we had not put up yet, but that's coming. So other than that, we did no dig for the rest. And over the course of 2020, lockdowns and all, although have to say that was an amazing blessing for us because it was spring and I had this huge project to work on. And we all really enjoyed spending so much time outside and watching this garden come together. Well, they watched and I worked. My husband could easily work from home, but as a piano teacher, my income dropped dramatically. So I actually grew and sold a couple thousand seedlings to make up some of that difference, and the greenhouse came in really handy for that. In addition to the no-dig side of the garden, my husband built 8 raised beds on the other side of the walkway, each measuring 5 by 3 feet, and we grew just a random assortment of things. Mostly. This area was vegetables and herbs the first year, not a ton of flowers. If you remember those big raised beds from the before photo, I actually emptied those out, cut them in half horizontally, and then moved them to the other side of the greenhouse. So they ended up doubling their space. And these are 8 by 4. That's a pretty significant size. And are home to the near 1,500 spring bulbs that I planted this fall. That's in 3 of them. 1 of them is empty for the winter. As the surrounding garden came together, I had tomatoes, peppers, and ginger growing inside the greenhouse that first summer, and they all did really well. The ginger particularly, that was my first year growing ginger, and I was really happy with the results. I did have to add a lot of soil and compost, but it seemed to do the trick. I did notice though while watering that the water tended to pool in the middle and made the center aisle a bit muddy. So I managed to find some extra bricks and patio stones and got to work creating some raised beds inside the greenhouse. This actually served 2 purposes. First, to increase the depth of the soil another few inches, and second, the stone actually absorbs and stores heat better during the day and helps keep the temperatures from dropping too much at night, especially throughout the winter. I have a thermometer that hangs on the wall and transmits to a weather station inside the house, so I was able to keep track of overnight temperatures. And the first winter with just a dirt floor, the greenhouse temperatures were 2 to 3 degrees warmer than outside, but after putting the stone in, it was staying on average about 6 to 8 degrees warmer than outside, so that's a massive difference. It changes, of course, depending on how cold it gets, whether it was sunny the day before, and also how windy it is. The wind has a huge difference. Now, even in below freezing temperatures outside in the middle of the winter, if it's sunny outside, it'll be warmer in the greenhouse than it is in the house. Today is February 8th, and yesterday, February 7th, I saw that temperature hit 26 degrees Celsius. So that is, I think, somewhere around 80 Fahrenheit. You may have noticed that the greenhouse is now purple, and I have to credit my husband for that. After its first winter in the spring of 2020, he said, "This thing is adorable, and you should paint it an adorable color like purple. You know, it would really stand out." And I said, "Yup, you're right." I said, "I like that." So I ran right out and got some purple paint. My 5-year-old son, though, now calls it the purple house because he doesn't understand why we call it a greenhouse if it's not green, but that's kid logic for you. So the addition of all the wood chips just finished everything off. So the spring of 2020, we had put in, I think, 4 or 5 rows next to the greenhouse of the in-ground no-dig rows. We have since gone all the way down to the concrete pad. I think the arbor went up in 2021. Not sure if I remember to mention that this is Nova Scotia, Canada, Zone 6A, with an average last frost date of around May 20th, so we get a pretty significant winter. So Zone 6, and I was able to overwinter a few Zone 7-8 plants like rosemary and eucalyptus, and I'll be trying some other things out in the future as well. And I think that just about covers it. If you have any questions about the greenhouse build or anything that I left out, please let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them as I see them. It was an extremely rewarding process to go through doing this with no construction experience and having to figure things out and then seeing the success at the end of it. And if you want to check out one of my very first videos from the winter of 2022 about what I overwintered in the greenhouse that year, you can find that right here. Thank you so much for watching. You're gonna go away now and not sneeze in the middle of my video, right? Right? Yeah. Bye-bye. Just a second. Now we're ready.